Negativity. Is it beneficial from an emotional standpoint? No, I don't think so. That's it. Thanks for clicking on this. Have a good day. No, please don't listen. Stick around. I'm just kidding. Now, in my mind, there's a way that I would personally like to handle negativity and negative emotions. Can I do it? Potentially. Am I currently good at it? No. So, I will be talking about how I would like to handle negativity and how I currently handle negativity, again from an emotional standpoint, and why I would like to get rid of it entirely. I also am doing another leg workout. I tweaked my shoulder when I last did a chest workout. I love dumbbell presses, but I hate them more than I love them probably, because that's the only time I ever get injured with press movement is the freaking dumbbell ones. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, okay, I know what I'm doing wrong, but everybody says that dumbbell presses are safer than bench presses. That is not my experience at all. I have gotten hurt like 3 or 4 times doing dumbbell presses. I've never once gotten hurt, never tweaked my shoulder, anything doing barbell bench presses, so whatever. I'm probably just done with those, but hopefully I can come back tomorrow with a chest workout. So if you happen to watch my videos in order, you're going to get back-to-back leg videos. How exciting. Now it has been, I don't know, a little over, probably around a week since I last did a leg workout. So I'm fresh. You know, I'm not doing hard legs back-to-back. I don't recommend doing that either. Maybe you're on some sort of dietary version of Ozempic where it's a miracle drug, and you can just work out all day, every day, as hard as you want. Steroids. Start with front squats. I really like front squats. I haven't been doing them very long. I wish I have been doing them longer, but I will continue to do them throughout the rest of my fitness life. I really like that you can maintain more of an upright position and you can get a lot lower in them. It's a lot more comfortable when I'm doing back squats to have the low bar position. So I don't get as low as I would like to. So it's nice to be able to do that with the front squats. I will be doing 4 sets of about 2 to 3 reps. This is supposed to be with my 3 rep max. I think I could have gotten 1 more. So I will count that as the first set, but I'm going to add 10 more pounds on. So to define and kind of dig in more specifically to what I'm referring to here is more so negative social interactions. That's one thing that I struggle with a lot, at least I think I do. And I tend to really overthink them whenever they happen. I tend to not be able to move on very quickly from them. I just kind of stew in it and replay it over and over in my mind, see what I could have done differently. You also, if you think about something too much like that, then you get to that point where it's like, you almost get that tough guy persona where it's like, oh man, I totally could have wiped the floor with them, or you know how when your mind goes into fantasy land, it's different for all of us, but I think for most men out there, there is always that element of like, oh man, if it would have gotten into a fight, you imagine yourself being a superhero. Now, I actually think in the moment I handle negative situations very well. I almost think it's because I process them very slowly. And I've had a lot of people tell me in my life where I've had bad interactions where it's like, man, you handle that really, really well. And I agree with that, but I think lots of people think that it's because I'm on the ball and responding to it and just staying in a calm place, whereas more of like I'm trying to register what just happened. It's like, is this guy really acting like this towards me right now? Is this person really being this way? What happened to justify this kind of behavior towards me? So it's like I have to wind up to get there. And by get there, I mean just to kind of realize that someone is being a jerk. For example, not that long ago, I at my job, I work outside, and so I go and knock on a customer's door, letting them know I'm here, seeing how everything's going. But there was a guy knocking on a competing salesman for a different company that came and knocked on the door right before I got there. And as he was walking up to me, he started asking me questions like, no, what happened was, one of the first things he said to me was like, hey, I'm going to steal your customer. And that's such a weird, like, confrontational thing to say that I just assumed he was joking, because most of the time with my interactions with people, if they say something along those lines, then, you know, they're just teasing you. But this guy, he never smiled, he never seemed like he was joking, and he goes on to ask questions like, what kind of bugs are they seeing here? And, oh yeah, I just want to know for when I come back later and steal your customer. And I'm like, okay. It took me a while. Not that the conversation was very long, it was probably 2 or 3 minutes, but it probably took me a good 2 minutes to realize, okay, this guy is just kind of being a douchebag. So I gave it back to him a little bit, not too much. One of the questions he asked was like, because the customer was not home, when is the customer going to be home? And I kind of just looked at him and was like, how am I supposed to know that? And it kind of set him on the back foot a little bit, but that was a simple interaction. It took me 2/3 of the conversation to realize, okay, he is just kind of being a douchebag. And then I spent like the whole rest of that job thinking about that interaction and what I could have done differently, and trying to determine if he was actually being a douchebag or not. And I do think reflection is a good thing. Obviously, if you want to get better at anything, a sport, for example, you go back and you watch the film and you critique what you did and see where you need to improve and try and improve on that. And the same thing does happen with the way we treat people and interact with people. Unfortunately, it's not on video most of the time. Well, I say unfortunately, I actually mean fortunately, because everything is videoed these days, and there needs to be less of that, and I don't want like complete government surveillance so we can go back and watch ourselves and critique and anything like that. So fortunately, we can't go back and watch everything. But it is good to kind of replay a situation in your mind and see what you could have done better, how you could have handled it, as long as you're not attaching that negativity to it. And that's what I have a tendency to do. I have a tendency, as I'm replaying it, to be being like, gosh, how could he act like that? Or, man, why didn't I hit him with a better zinger? Or why couldn't I have just been like threatening from a just a primal, I'm big, strong, tough, I can beat you up perspective. 1, 2. Oh, okay. Okay, that was definitely my 3 rep max there. I don't have good shoulder mobility, and I do have somewhat long arms, so maintaining that elbow up position from this is tough for me, and shoulders are my weakest muscle, so all that combined. But I would assume that arm length plays into that, the length of the forearms and such. I'm 6'4", but I have 6'6" wingspan. Not that that's that big of a difference, but I'm going to currently use it to justify that that's a big reason why I suck at front squats. But yeah, going back on that last one, I expect I will have my elbows down here instead of up here like this, and I'll just kind of be holding the weight with my wrists, which is not what you want to do with front squats. You want to try and keep the elbow up, try and keep that bar kind of right above the collarbone, or right above it? Just like even with the collarbone on that shoulder muscle. So I think that interaction is a good example because it is super minor. He could have been joking. I'm calling him a douche and assume that he was being a douche just because that's what makes the most sense in my mind. But he could have just been a really socially awkward dude that doesn't really know how to tease and banter in a way that makes it obvious to a complete stranger. So I really don't even know. It just felt like a negative interaction to me. But I think it's so easy for people to get really, really upset or angry in similar situations, whether it's just someone cuts you off in line or cuts you off while driving, even though that one's actually physically dangerous. So be careful with that one. or flips you off while driving, anything like that, it has a tendency to really get underneath people's skin. And when you kind of step back and look at it from the bird's eye perspective, if you can remove the emotions from it and just kind of look at it, when you get upset in those situations, you're totally losing the altercation, if that's how you want to look at it. And it's not like it's a win-lose situation, even though lots of times that's the way that we end up making it feel like. It's one of those big reasons why online it's so satisfying to watch karma videos. I know I've watched plenty of the Karen gets karma type videos, and so there's that part of us that's very satisfied to feel like people that are being douchebags are deserving of having bad things happen to them. And there's a strong argument that is accurate. Maybe they should have a little bit of cosmic karma happen. But if you let somebody get you really upset based off of something stupid that's not affecting you physically or in any meaningful way, then they're winning. You're just letting them win. They got exactly what they wanted, which was to insult you and piss you off and to allow them to live rent-free in your head. And if you're anything like me, that's annoying as hell. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to give them any more time of day than that 30-second encounter that I had with them. Like, why? What's the point? It doesn't help me at all. Okay, in the workout program I'm following, the last 3 sets are only supposed to be 2 reps. I did 3 reps on the first 2 sets, so I will actually only do 2 reps on these last 2 sets. So now to vocalize my self-analysis of that specific situation, the things that I would like to do differently would be just let it go faster. I actually do like the fact that it does take me a little bit of time to recognize, how someone's intentions are or how the situation is developing. I would like to be able to identify that faster, just, more accurate information to better handle a situation. But I think that is a good thing for anybody to do, especially if you're kind of a hothead and things affect you very, very quickly. Learning to take a step back and just kind of watch yourself for a second is a good thing to do. It's very, very rare that we're actually in a situation where you have to respond quickly. And those are life or death situations that I'm referring to. And, that takes a whole separate type of training that, if you want to go do, you can go do it. But for just us civilian normies that are just dealing with jerks, that doesn't really count or apply. So in my ideal version of how to handle that, I actually do a lot of things that I want to do, which is, to step back, to not make the situation worse. I don't want to escalate or anything like that. I want to be kind and, give people the benefit of the doubt. But the big thing again is, I'm sure you've already guessed, is just to not let it sit for so long, just to move on. Like as soon as the altercation or encounter is over with, just like move on, it's gone. It's 10, 20 years in the past and you don't even remember it anymore. I don't know if that's possible, and because I don't know that it's possible, I have a tendency to believe that it is possible, because why not? It's a beneficial way of thinking for me, and if there might be examples of people out there that actually can do that. I don't know people that have. I haven't met anyone like that. If you believe in Jesus, then hey, there's your pillar right there, and try and be more like him. I definitely need to do some knees over toes stuff, because when I'm coming up from these front squats, it feels like my knee is just crunching bubble wrap. Luckily it's not painful, it's just kind of funny. If there's one area I know I could improve in my fitness, it would be anti-injury training. So more just like, one thing that helps my shoulder and elbow out a ton is just, doing this. And I should be doing this probably 3 or 4 times a week. Do I? No. I tend to just do it when I start feeling like my elbow's hurting, because that helps. Same thing with the knee stuff. If I start feeling some knee pain, that's when I'll go do some knee strengthening stuff. I should make a change with that. Will I? Probably not, because it's boring and it hasn't become a serious issue. And is that smart of me? No. Will I get smart? Probably not. The irony of handling a negative situation so positively and in a way that makes it to where you literally are not bothered by it at all. You know, you're standing on the bridge and that water's just not even touching you because it's just going right underneath you. Is that that lives rent free in that angry person's head. You know, you're all of a sudden you've won the conflict. You know, and again, I address that because it's just like that human tendency that we have to feel like, yeah, I got the better of the douchebag. And again, I don't want to have that mentality. I do think that is a negative thing. You know, I don't want to wish ill will on anybody. I want them to change. I want them to not be so angry at complete strangers and just, you know, have more positive outlook. But it sure can be damn hard to remember that in the situation, or if you're like me, after the situation for the next week when you think about it way too much. I have no idea if Jesus was a real person. I am not a religious person, but man, how cool would it be to be like Jesus? To where you just aren't fazed by any of that. You know, you don't even feel physical pain apparently. Well, I don't know if he did or not, but either way, it didn't affect the way that he treated people. And personally, that's how I would like to be, just not be negatively affected by any of that stuff. So that's my ideal, that's my personal utopia of how I want to be. I guess I just want to be like Jesus. Does that make me Christian? No. Alright, moving on to deadlifts here. This is whatever the opposite stance is of your normal form. So I'll be doing traditional deadlifts here and we're going to be doing 6 reps, 5 sets. So on this free program I've been following, next week is supposed to be the week where I hit a new PR on all these lifts that I've been working on, specifically bench, deadlift, and squats. This is a 1-month training program. I got sick for about a week, which really set me back, and then the shoulder injury has kind of set me back too. So I probably should start the whole thing over again, which I don't want to do. I'm not going to. I can't say I've particularly enjoyed this program. I have gotten stronger in some lifts, fortunately, because some of these, like the front squat, are ones that I don't do very often. But do I think I'd get a new PR in the deadlift and the squat? Yeah, because I was already pretty close to that before I started this program. The deadlift I could probably do more of anyway, I just don't have enough weight to do that. The bench, however, I do not think that I will get a new PR on that. So I'll just finish this out. I'll just, next time whenever the shoulder's feeling better, I'll just keep following the program, because despite it being a 4-week one, I've probably been doing it for 5 or 6 just because things have gotten in the way. So I in no way will say bad things about this program in terms of, oh, it doesn't work, don't do that. I haven't done it the way that it should be done. Things happen. When I originally started this channel, the goal was just joining the 1,000 pound club. That's a total of 1,000 pounds with the bench, deadlift, and squat. Last time I tested it, I think I was 19 pounds off. It's been a while since I've done it. And again, if I had more deadlift weight, I probably would already be there. But I've been like, my deadlift's my strongest exercise anyway, who would have thought, just like everybody else. So I was kind of trying to make up the distance or the difference with the bench and the squat. But I should probably just get another 20 pounds with in plates and just knock it out, because I'm kind of ready to move on. I kind of would like to get back into more hypertrophy work. I have definitely learned some things while doing more strength-oriented training. So I'd like to see how that incorporates into hypertrophy work and see if I can still make weight gains while doing hypertrophy work. I obviously think that is possible, but it is not something that I have focused on much in the past. So yeah, I'm just ready for change and to switch things up. Early on in my fitness life, one of the big changes I made that helped me stay with it consistently, because I've only been consistent with working out for about 5 or 6 years now, but it was changing up programs. Before that, I would just do the same thing over and over again with no end in sight. So I guess I've kind of established in myself that, yeah, about every 3 months I'm ready to change it up and do something a little bit different. Man, the ego in me really wants to get to a 300-pound bench press though, and I am not close to that. I think my PR on bench is 265. So I'm not anywhere close. It might not sound that far off, but pretty far, especially when I've been stuck on 265 for a couple of months now. Going back to the wanting to just be more like the ideal figure, Jesus or whatever that might be in your mind, I have a tendency to believe in things that have yet to be disproven. And I don't know if there's any evidence out there that you actually can become like a Jesus type figure. But I also don't think there's been compelling evidence that you can't become like that. Ironically, one thing that has astounded me and has been, weirdly enough, kind of a core belief in that, are watching those videos of those monks or whoever it is that can take shots to the balls like it's nothing. And to me, that was just a sign of, okay, if you train and do something enough and have the right kind of mindset, you can overcome physical pain even. I don't know, maybe those guys have just taken so many shots they don't feel anything down there, but I mean, getting hit hurts no matter where it is, and those guys just take it. I don't know if they're not feeling any pain, but they sure as hell aren't, curling up in the fetal position on the floor like most men do when they get hit that hard in the nuts. So it's weird to put those two together, but it was just kind of, for me personally, since again I don't have religion, I was very religious up until about 18, 19 years old, and not believing in that anymore did create a big void for me. So obviously trying to find something to fill that was just, maybe you can look at it as human evolution, from a natural perspective. If you believe in evolution, then I don't see why we wouldn't continue to evolve. And again, I don't even know if that's true or not. Evolutionary theory is very compelling and fun to kind of study. But I like to have beliefs that serve me, and human experience is fairly bleak if you don't have something to look forward to on the horizon. That's one big reason religion is popular as it is because if you don't feel like you're striving towards some utopia, then we're just here to suffer and feel pain and hopefully live for 8 decades and do something with your life. But I don't know, it's hard to find meaning in that. So I guess that's just kind of been my personal religion over the last 10 years or so is, well, you can't disprove it, so I will believe in what benefits me. And it's beneficial to me to believe that I can get to a point where negative social interactions just don't bother me in the slightest. And obviously you can expand that into other things, going back to those guys taking nut shots. I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I don't experience physical pain just because I'm not willing to go through the torture it takes to get there. But I don't know, I hope that I still have 5 or 6 decades left on this planet, and maybe for one of those decades I decide, hey, physical pain bothers me and I want to do everything I can to try and get rid of that. I can see that happening. In some sense, that's part of the fitness journey. A lot of the early part of fitness is learning how to overcome physical pain. I don't think that'll get you to the ultimate goal if that's something that you're interested in. Hey, but it's a stepping stone. If you want to really learn how to go to failure, you got to get through pain first. Something that's pretty ironic about this whole negativity thing that I've been talking about is for most of my life, haven't really liked confrontational people, but the older I've gotten, the more I've respected them, and it's because of what I've been talking about throughout this. They are really, really good about just moving on, just letting it, letting that negativity just slide right off of them and moving on to the next thing. Now, unfortunately, those are the same kind of people that are willing to start those negative altercations lots of times, not all the time. But, we can learn something from everybody. Someone might not be doing something that you personally like, but that doesn't mean that there isn't an aspect of that interaction that you can't learn from. So to exercise that with the story about that sales guy that I was talking about earlier, kudos for him for being completely upfront and just being like, hey, this is what I'm here to do. If you're willing to help me, if you're willing to share with me how I can steal your customer from you, then please tell me. So, if you look at it from that perspective, at least he was being upfront and honest. But that's all I got for you today. Until next time.